Hi, everybody. Dan D. Federicis of Saratoga Report, and I am here with Saratoga Springs Public Safety Commissioner Tim Coll. Commissioner Coll is in maybe the final stretch, to use a Saratoga term, of his first term. He is running for re-election. He has a lot of endorsements: the Republican Party, the Democratic Party, as well as One Saratoga. He is a registered Democrat. Commissioner Coll, thank you for joining us. Let me just say to everybody, this is sponsored content, although Commissioner Coll is running unopposed. So this allows us to talk about things more in depth that maybe in campaigning you really don't have a chance to do. Commissioner Coll, how are you doing this? We're still at the tail end of these 90-degree days.
Yeah, no, thanks, Dan. Always great to connect. Yeah, it's been a hot few days, so hopefully we get some relief tomorrow.
Yeah. Speaking of hot topics, and this has been so in July, but even before that, but probably heated up to a new level in July, areas around the country, certainly Saratoga Springs and the vicinity, is the federal agency known, the shorthand as ICE, which I believe is what immigration. They used to be separate agencies, right? But now they're Immigration Customs Enforcement. Is that correct? The acronym there?
Yes, that is correct. Yes, sir.
Okay, and as almost everybody knows, they have made a number of arrests, both in Saratoga and a lot of other places. It's been unusual, perhaps would be a word, in just a lot about these arrests are kind of unusual. They're controversial. A lot of people are against them. And Commissioner Coll, I think maybe some people don't fully understand, at least this local agency, namely Saratoga Springs Police Department, their role, or perhaps lack of role, to more accurately describe it, but I won't speak for you, in these involvements of a federal law enforcement agency. Do you want to take it from there?
Absolutely, I will. But thanks again, Dan. But as you noted, ICE has been in our city for several months on occasion, and I just specifically want to address our role, the SSPD's role with ICE during that time period. And I just wanted to be clear: the Saratoga Springs Police Department has no authority to enforce federal immigration law, and we don't do that. However, we will also not obstruct it, right? So we will not be in a position where we're going to obstruct justice, because that would be a violation of federal law, and I would never put our officers in that position. But I wanted to be direct and direct with your viewers. Several months ago, I did meet with ICE leadership. I met them in City Hall, and we spoke about the need for us, the Saratoga Springs Police Department, to deconflict with ICE when they're coming to our city or our what we call law enforcement area of responsibility. And ICE has agreed to notify us when they come into our city, and that is for deconfliction purposes only. And they let us know when they leave our city, even though they're not required to do that. And I did want to spend a little time talking about deconfliction, because I know it's very important. As you know, I come from a federal background in the FBI for 30 years in the federal law enforcement business. And when I was in New York, I spent 10 years working on drug trafficking in Harlem. And it was very important that we deconflict. At that time, we were deconflicting with NYPD and DEA, and we used a system, like a database system, that was called the DEX system. And the reason why we deconflict is, and I'll give you a perfect example, SSPD, if they were doing a criminal warrant, for example, on a drug case, and they went into a location, we didn't want to be tripping on ICE, who was doing enforcement activity at that same location. So that is the reason why we deconflict, so we don't have a blue on blue situation. You know, when I transferred up here from New York City a long time ago, the New York State Police, as you know, Dan, because you came from the New York State Police, they through NYSEC, which is part of the New York State Police, they have a deconfliction system that's called safety net. So it really is important that we deconflict. And ICE has agreed to do that, and I'm thankful for that because they don't do it with every city, and they certainly do it with us. But I also just want to elaborate a little bit more about ICE, right? ICE, like the FBI and DEA, they have their authority based on the Constitution through the Supremacy Clause, and they can go into any city, state, town, any U.S. territory to conduct their operations. Certainly, myself, the Public Safety Commissioner in Saratoga Springs, I do not have oversight over ICE or the FBI or DEA. That lies with the U.S. Congress.
So to be clear, and I think I said this, but I think it's worth repeating, the Saratoga Springs Police Department is not assisting ICE in anything they're doing, and they haven't. Is that correct?
Yeah, that is correct. But I do want to elaborate on that too. But that doesn't mean if ICE calls us in an emergency and there's a threat against them, we will then assist them, of course, right? But in the normal course of business, we do not. We contact them; they contact us for deconfliction purposes only.
And I think you said in the past that you will assist them to maintain safety, not necessarily assisting them in making immigration arrests and so forth, right? There was a line, a bit of a fine line there, would you say?
Yeah, I mean, if they during their operations, if they call us, we're not on the radio channels, but if they call us, call 911 and say they're in danger for whatever reason, we are certainly going to assist them.
Certainly. Okay, good. This makes sense. Where there were a lot of people spoke at the city council meeting earlier this month, some strong beliefs on this, and I get it. Where do you think most of the Saratoga Springs residents do you think most of them understand what you're telling me right now?
I think I think the large majority do, and some don't. So I do want to spend some time in general talking about ICE operations, and I think this gets pretty much down in the weeds and into some of the nuances. But people are expressing their concerns about ICE executing criminal warrants versus administrative warrants, and I wanted to take some time to explain that. And this is just an overview, not getting into a lot of the details, but a criminal warrant is signed by a federal magistrate, and if we come across someone that has a criminal warrant, SSPD, we will hold that person just like we do if it was an FBI warrant uploaded into NCIC, which is the National Crime Information Center, or a DEA warrant. So to give you some practical example on that, if our police officers pull over someone for a DUI and they run them for wants and warrants, they'll do that through NCIC, and it will pop up that ICE has a criminal warrant. And if it's a criminal warrant, we will hold that person. If it's an administrative warrant or it's a civil warrant, we will not hold that person. And that's basically our policy. Our policy has been in place since 2021. It's been approved by the Division of Criminal Justice Services because we're an accredited agency. And it's really important for the SSPD to be an independent police agency, right? We are not beholden to any political group, whether it's Republicans or Democrats or any special interest groups. We are beholden to the law. And that to me is really important, that we have to remain independent from those outside influences. But I do want to take a minute and talk about these administrative warrants. They're not something new under the Trump administration. I've been in this business for more than 30 years. They have been part of the landscape for 30 years, these administrative warrants. They've been through the federal court systems. They have all passed legal muster. This is not something unique now all of a sudden. So I want to bring that.
Weeds, explain what an administrative warrant would be in response to, or what would it be used to enforce?
Yeah, so an administrative warrant is civil, and that will not be signed by a magistrate. That would be signed by a supervisor within ICE. And generally, more than likely, I'm generalizing, they would be visa overstays versus a criminal warrant, which would be someone providing false documentation or illegal entry into the United States. So they're generally visa overstays. But ICE doesn't have the authority with an administrative warrant to go onto private property. So what that means is a lot of times ICE is operating, on the streets. They're operating covertly because they have a targeting package, and they're looking for someone to identify, the information they have. So it's different than the criminal warrant. But I also want to go into due process a little bit because people have issues with due process and are talking about administrative warrants not having due process. Well, the answer is yes. They don't have the same due process as criminal warrants. I would say they're less. It's less due process. But
it's a lower bar, right?
What was that? What was that?
It's a lower bar.
I would say it's limited due process, and that means because it's not approved by a federal judge. If you don't have an attorney in a criminal case, you'll get one appointed to you. That's not the case in the administrative process. But eventually, not all of them. Eventually, you will go before an immigration judge. So that is the difference, and I would characterize it like you just said as limited, limited due process.
Sure. Okay. This is good. This clarifies a lot, Professor. This is good, and your background is helpful. What if someone now? Some people are, there's a lot of people that aren't shy about going to City Hall and City Council meetings, and that's part of our democracy. You and I think I speak for us both. We support that. But what if someone can't make it there or doesn't want to go there, but they have concerns that they want to talk to the city about? What would you recommend that they do?
Yeah, certainly. Contact our office. You can send an email, you can call us, and we'll get back to you. That's certainly our job. Is the greatest thing about our democracy, when we have the greatest democracy in the world, right, is people can express their First Amendment rights, and it's our job to answer any questions they have. Even in our city council meetings, right, they're very spirited, and I'm being kind, obviously, but when I see that type of activity, I think to myself, this is why we are the greatest country in the world, because we let people express, their First Amendment rights, for sure.
Terrific. This is. I hope this is helpful. I think it should be. I think we've got a great police department. And I think most people recognize that.
Yeah,
I hope.
No, the command staff of our police department and our fire department, they're tremendous. So I enjoy working with them every day. But I did want to talk about the tactics of ICE, even though we're not involved in it, and I just want to share my feelings about that. That I do have some concerns about their tactics, and I want to be forthright about that, right? So as I mentioned earlier, ICE, they need to operate covertly, right? Because and they use unmarked vehicles. They don't have a uniform, and once they arrest someone, I would expect that they would, after making them safe, they would identify themselves, et cetera, and explain and show them the warrant they have for that particular person. My concern is the fact that ICE is wearing masks, right? So, and based on my experience, that is troubling for me because, I come from the federal system. I've seen DEA agents testify with their true name, their no masks, putting, cartel members in jail for life. FBI agents do the same thing for organized crime. FBI agents do the same thing for terrorists, judges sentencing people, right? So that is part of our federal criminal justice system, which I think is the greatest system in the world. And I'm concerned about the mask because it shows an optics that we have sort of a secret police here in the United States. So I'm telling you, I have concerns about that. I want to express those concerns. Now, I know the world has changed, and doxing, which is now what people are doing on social media, they're taking the identities of the ICE agents and they're posting them on social media, sometimes with very bad intent. So I understand why they're using masks to a certain extent, but I'm concerned about it, and it's not consistent with my experience with testifying against and putting someone in your subjects in prison. That's how our system is built. So my position would be clearly that I should not wear a mask, but at the same time, we should increase penalties for doxing, right? So the government's always catching up with laws to address, what's happening in our society. And I know there's a bill right now in the U.S. Senate that's addressing doxing, but really, I think that has to happen. We need to have many more significant penalties for doxing. But at the same time, from my position is I don't think I should be wearing masks.
And just briefly, you said it once. I just want to make sure nobody missed it. Explain doxing one more time.
So doxing is, if people will gather the information about an agent and their identity, and they'll post it online, and they will have bad intent, so they want to hurt that agent, right? That is doxing. And so I know our laws, we don't have specific laws addressing that now federally, but I know one is making its way through the U.S. Congress.
You're right. It has changed times, and that is scary. So the issue you point out with the masks, it's there's two sides of that.
Yeah.
Somewhat understandable, but at the same time, like you said, this being a free society and a democracy, there's a concern. But is there anything else? Is there anything else? We're going to keep doing this, talking about different issues over the summer. I do want to talk to you next time, perhaps, or one of these times in the future, about track season and the tremendous security challenges the police department, fire department, and your other, really the city. I won't limit it to those two, but they're probably the ones that are the most obvious, have faced, whether it's a concert downtown or the track or SPAC or so forth. And what a great job they're doing. So we ought to plan on doing that perhaps next week, Commissioner.
Yeah, no, I'd really love to do that. And again, kudos to our police department and our fire department and our codes, because we just have a great team. And the Belmont on Broadway and the Belmont Festival is a national special event. And we collectively have done a great job over the last 2 years addressing that.
Yeah, that what they used to say, New York City was a city that never sleeps. Well, maybe we're number 2 in that category, at least this summer, right?
Well, at least in upstate New York, for sure.
Yeah, excellent. Commissioner, thank you for joining us here. And I enjoy this. I learned. I did not work, as you know, did not work at the federal level, so I learned a lot, and things have changed, right? This conversation 20 years ago would have been a very different one. So thank you for your informative, and folks, you can contact the Office of Public Safety or the police department if you have concerns. And I'm glad that I hope some people get to see this so we can clarify some things. Thanks, Commissioner.
You're welcome, Dan. Good to chat.
Thank you. Take care.